Hi everyone, my research project is about political ads and young voters' voting intentions. And as we know that political advertising is one of the dominant media formats during the election campaign, and candidates put a lot of money and energy into the production and airing of the political ads. And it has outperformed other types of medias like debates and news, and to be the dominant, one of the main source of political information, not only for the old voters, also for the young voters. And young voters are very important for the election poll, as we know, because their decisions will decide the result, they will influence the result of the election result. So in my study, I would like to see do political ads will influence the young voters' voting intentions to vote or not? And if there's such an influence, how will this influence work? And I choose the gender setting theory as my basic theory, and which tells us that what media says will guide what the audience thinks about issues or either on the attributes of the candidates on the media. So many studies have been conducted, and there were two main effects being found on political ads effect. And the first one is demobilization effect, which tells us that compared to positive ads, negative advertising will decrease the voters' voting intentions. And there's also another effect called stimulation effect, which said that negative advertising will increase the voters' voting intentions. But there's also a third argument that says that their political ads had no influence at all on the voting intentions. So, and this results also show a great amount of variance because based on their different methodologies and the different experimental context. So some other studies began to focus on some mediation process, such as the information efficacy, political cynicism, and political gratifications that may influence the political advertising's effect on voting intentions. So in my study, I would like to use this mediation process to see the effect. So my first three research questions ask, do political ads influence the information efficacy, cynicism, or gratification? And my next three research questions ask whether voting intentions is related to the information efficacy, cynicism, and gratifications. And I used a 2-and-2 factorial experimental design, and it was online experiment and post-test only. So my independent variables were the tones of the ads, which were either negative or positive, and also the candidate's presentation on issues and his own attributes, characteristics. And there were 4 experimental cells and 1 control cell, and all the participants were undergraduates with a mean age of 20.3, and 70.6 of them are males, and 82.4% of them are females. And the stimuli were 4 different types of ads that chosen from the same candidate in the recall election of Wisconsin in 2012. And so each experimental cell received 1 specific type of ads. And the ad were no longer than 35 seconds, sorry. So in my instrument part, I choose several skills that has been used in previous studies, and I did factor analysis for them. And for the political information efficacy, there was only 1 component, and for the political cynicism, there were 3 different components, which were labeled as trusting politicians, and influence of voting, and also the understanding of politics. And in political gratification scale, there were 2 parts, and the first part asked the participants why they watch political ads, and there was 1 component returned. And for the second part, which asked why participants avoid watching political ads, there were 3 components, and they were trusting political ads, and understanding of politics, and also political preconception, which said whether you have made up your mind before you vote. So the results show that political ads had no influence on voters' voting intentions, because the initial ANOVA test showed that no significant difference was found between the experimental cells and the control cell, and also no difference between different experimental cells. And also, however, after the correlation test, I found a positive correlation between political information efficacy and voting intentions, and also a negative correlation between the political cynicism and voting intentions. And no difference was found between gratification and voting intentions. So this result shows that seems that young voters were immune to the political ads, but this immune effect should be questioned because several limitations in my study. Well, the first limitation is about the relatively small sample size with only about 156 participants, and also the imbalance within the sample components with too many females and less males. And also the second limitation, which I think is the more important limitation, is that the data collection process was conducted only 2 weeks prior to the national election day, and also time when early voting was being held. So maybe, I think many participants have already made up their mind at that time and already vote, so they're no longer influenced by the ads that they saw in the experiment. And also the third limitation is about the stimuli I chose, because stimulus all the political ads are from the same candidates in another state level election, so maybe the participants felt no personal involvement, and they just thought, oh, it's not my business, and so they could not be influenced. So, however, other than these main findings, I also find some other interesting things in my study, and the first one is that males had less political information efficacy than females, and they also they were less likely to avoid watching political ads. So maybe I think it may relate it to the explanation that males need more political information before they make political decisions. And the second interesting finding is that when the participants felt candidate Mitt Romney as more favorable, they were more likely to vote in the election. So maybe I think that it's related to their political stereotypes or political culture here in Georgia. I'm not sure, I just guess. So in my future research, I think that the researchers should focus more on some mediation process such like the information efficacy that I used in my study, or some other moderators like the genders or the political preconceptions, something like that may influence political ads effect on young voters' voting intentions, because I think that maybe this will influence this effect. That's all my presentation. Thank you very much.